Travis doing good, so. The video you're about to watch is everything that I've learned in researching yesterday's sign in the heavens date. It incorporates all of my knowledge on the subject matter that I've been researching for since I learned that we're in the latter days. And there's multiple segments already put in or recorded that I'll have to assemble into an order. This will be first, even though I have another one titled Intro. But there's one that I've been repeating and adding to it as I learn more stuff up until yesterday. And even still, I haven't added that it's the longest full moon of the year. That did not get put in, so now it is. My education was in the anthropology of the ancient Middle East, coupled with philosophy of science, in that I learned logic from fallacy and to develop theories that need to be tested. And so combining all that together, I knew exactly what's going on for the latter days, and knew that I needed to all of a sudden get back into it so that I can see what's going on. There is a passage in the Doctrine and Covenants. It's talking to Mormons who get baptized in the church and what they are to now do as members of the church. Let's see if I can find it. And there's only one. Yeah, so there it is. Section 39. And it shall come to pass that on as many as you shall baptize with water and lay your hands, and you shall receive the gift of the Holy Ghost, and shall be looking forth for the signs of my coming. These are different than sign seekers to establish their belief systems. That's an idolatrous, adulterous, whatever is thrown into that scripture. Because we're all about Revelation, Apocalypse, last days, and the fulfillments. And so why would you join a church just to worship Jesus, created by Constantine? So Mormons are supposed to be different. Supposed to be different. And shall know me. So the signs are supposed to let Mormons know when their Christ is there, so that they will know him. And I've gone over with you, and this is new doctrine for Mormons, because there's a certain church that does not want us to know the actual doctrine. In the selections from the book of Moses, chapter 7, it talks about the seed of Enoch, the children of Noah, thus the seed from Noah. You see, these are mortal men, mortal parents, mortal children through their seed as men, not women of egg. And the Lord said, blessed is he through whose seed Messiah shall come. So we're not Christian. This is Jewish. The Jews believe that a mortal man will be like Moses and save the Jews. That's Mormon doctrine. We're not Christian. Reread your first vision. We're not Christian. We're not supposed to be Christian. Jesus is not our Christ. Created by Constantine, remember? And you're saying, well, yeah, but he's in the Book of Mormon. He's in the Gospels. Obviously it's history. See, ex-Mormons should know better. They know the Book of Mormon's not real history. But can they apply it to Christianity and the Bible? The Gospels were originally apocalyptic literature. They were written as history, just like Samson, written as history. Even Moses. When you get to the end in Deuteronomy, you find out that the author is not Moses at all. And it's written during the Roman period. So it's not historically accurate. So no Adam and Eve at 4000 BCE. But if you're going to be dumb and just accept what other people tell you to believe without fact-checking, you're going to be fooled. And so this is my education. I learned how not to be deceived by people making claims. So, for example, I have terrorists on YouTube. They work for the church, they spy for the church, and they purposely look for weaknesses, lying in wait, committing felony crimes to strike and make their comments. YouTube employees are doing their part. I had a breakout video yesterday. They stepped in, took out my views, took out my likes to try to stop the video from getting more attention. It still shows a breakout. But YouTube confirmed, again, it's now fact because of all the confirmations. YouTube works for the church to silence me. Fact. But this terrorist, whether they're that YouTube employee who's working for the church, or whether it's a rogue Mormon who thinks they're clever and they're going to defend the church by violating Nelson's own orders this past week, accuse me of, by pointing out the prophecies and the signs in the heavens and what has happened before, that I'm the cause, that I'm giving Nelson the death threat. Well, what now? Nelson didn't die. So are they going to dismiss their belief, their theory? They have to. I didn't do it. So he's wrong. I was not speaking in code to murder Nelson. They have to dismiss their belief, their theory. Will they? No, they won't. Because they don't have my education. They don't live by truth. They purposely live by terror, by lies, by fallacy. And so, the results on Earth did not occur. Where do I get this from? Do I make it up? Oops, we can't go to there. We got to go to study aids. because the church doesn't consider the Joseph Smith translation scripture. They refuse to footnote it. It's only referenced in the actual footnotes of canonized scripture. Rewriting or adding in to Revelation chapter 12 verse 1. And there appeared a great sign in heaven, in the likeness of things on the earth. That's where I get it from. That was my education in anthropology of the ancient Middle East. They connected the movements of the heavens with events on earth. So eclipses meant a transition of authority. The right eye for government, the sun; left eye, moon, for religion. This is what they knew. I don't make it up. You have people that purposely lie and deceive in these latter days to cause confusion because they're terrorists. They're seeking to destroy. These guys are dangerous. And they want to erase truth, just like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is trying to erase the truth of their history. Because who was the second president of Joseph Smith's organization? No, it was not Brigham Young. It was nobody. The death of Joseph, nobody followed his process for succession. And so everybody, including Brigham Young, started, formed, founded their own church. So Brigham Young is the first president of his Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Edmunds-Tucker Act shut it all down, confirmed by the Supreme Court of the United States of America. And so the Church of Brigham Young ceased to exist on the face of the earth. But not the people. The people carried on in secret, without authority, until Heber J. Grant. Now, Heber J. Grant is the founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that Nelson is currently the president of. The church doesn't tell us this. They lie. I gave you the truth. The church lies to you. That's a fact. And so, as you watch this video, you will see how the patterns correspond only with Brigham Young into Heber J. Grant to Nelson. The patterns have already happened. They are fact. Both the signs in the heavens that occurred, if you see the chart, and the events on earth, as in the Joseph Smith translation, as it's called. And so, making predictions about the future is no different than predicting when the sun will rise this morning. We all will die, but I never realized that we could actually predict certain people's deaths. We all want to know when we're going to die, I think. Maybe some people don't want to know when they're going to die. Many movies and books have talked about the subject, debating the issue, as do we want to know if we're going to die or when we're going to die? Because we're all dying. It's in our design as man. Once the sperm enters the egg, we're on a death mission. That's the cycle of life. But to recognize the patterns and to see that Joseph Smith is onto something here. Because religion, that's ancient. And I was finding patterns confirming that the ancients were correct. That deaths of prophets, presidents of the church, correspond with lunar eclipses. So it's not me making the death threats, as terrorists want to try to do. You know, they've apparently not read their Book of Mormon, where in is it in Helaman or is it in Nephi? It's where Nephi is at his mansion home by the freeway, and he's at the tower, and reports come in that the high priest was assassinated, and everybody's wanting to accuse Nephi of having assassinated him. And so then he says, well, you know, go to him and ask him these questions in this particular way. And so they did, and he confessed that the one guy was the murderer of the chief judge. Nothing happened, obviously, but I'm willing to say that nothing happened. I have consciousness of thought to recognize that nothing happened yesterday. Now, if the church is hiding that information, you know, maybe when everybody wakes up, things will change. But for them to know about my videos, and they do, this is confirmed. I came out, I said, hey, I saw this from the church. They're giving me a death threat. Confirmed now. At that place, they knew what I was there for. And I went over with you the other things that I was noticing. And now, boom, they got me. I'm now destroyed. It's just a matter of time now. I got extended a short bit into January, but that's it. I'm over. I'm done. The videos are purposely only put in one playlist. My final video series, or whatever it's called. And so unless I'm saved, which would only be by the federal government, which has not had a proven track record, they don't seem interested in saving America. I will eventually cease doing videos. I will eventually cease in your presence. And yet you can see YouTube and Mormons will not stop until I'm completely silenced. The breakout video was about how Mormons have the exact same God as Christians. And again, first vision. No, what are you doing? Why are you betraying Mormonism of Joseph Smith? So the facts of yesterday's signs are established. It happened. I even see it with my own eyes as I see the moon for this weekend, saw it last night, confirmed. The signs happened, just as predicted. But the event in the likeness of things on the earth did not happen, at least as far as I know. There is nothing that I can find that it happened. And so I can't come up with, oh, there is a basement in the pizza parlor where hostages are being taken and babies eaten by Hillary Clinton. No, I have to dismiss that. There is no basement. Cut it out. Quit trying to claim there is a basement. But people are seeking to destroy. They're using gaslighting. Russia admitted yesterday, yeah, we're at war with you. This is a world war. And we have no idea what the outcome will be, but we're at war with you. And we're working with China. Oh, wow. Look at that. China and Russia working together against the United States. As we here in America were kind of confused. Is it China attacking us or is it Russia attacking us? Now we know. Both. And guess what? There are others around the world helping Russia and China against America. And we're getting our butts kicked. We're losing this war. As we have Americans turning on America to aid and abet the enemy. To help the church, whom I've exposed, paying both China and Russia with tithing money to destroy America. We just had another ransomware attack from Russia this past week. That was paid for by the church. And you notice the companies that they're using? Mormon companies. SolarWinds last year, Kronos this year. Yay! Isn't that great? Don Glenn, Temple Financer. Went over with you in the video. But if you're going to be a terrorist and seek to strike, because I don't repeat every single bit of information in every single video, just understand, I know you're the enemy. So you can make your comments, and you know I hold all comments for review. You are the terrorist. You are the liar. I know it. You know it. So you can throw it back at me all you want. I don't play your game. I'm giving you your popularity here. I'm acknowledging you to the public. But YouTube silences my videos, so... So, what else has been confirmed that I need to make sure is in this video? That's pretty much it. So, yeah, this video just goes over the sign for yesterday and how it's supposed to be applied. All the factors brought in. And I made sure to cover it's the largest full moon of the year. So, there you go. 2 hours now, it looks like. And after I shut it off, I then remember what else to add. September 22nd. I did a whole big video blitz before it happened. Nothing happened, obviously, right? Well, Joseph Smith with Moroni, not Nephi. Joseph Smith is wrong again. Joseph Smith doesn't know what he's talking about, so we have to correct him? Okay. Are you sure? 22nd of September. There are patterns in what he was talking about. If you are unfamiliar with the Smiths, they knew how to code. The Doctrine and Covenants was coded. Brigham Young, Heber J. Grant's church, didn't decode the Doctrine and Covenants until the 1981 edition. That was the first year that I went to seminary. I got to have the full quad fully footnoted, and with the Bible dictionary, topical guide, I was the first batch of Mormons with that. And I've gone over with you how they didn't get everything. Section 117. Oh my God. You think you got it all, did you? Or Doctrine and Covenants, Section 1, verse 16. Babylon? Really? Still exists, huh? Oh, well, I guess Nelson said the Babylon band still exists. So, yeah, they knew how to code. Everybody does. You know how to code. So quit with all this, oh, no, they didn't code. It's just, guys, you do not fool me. You're fooling others, obviously. But you are the terrorists, spreading misinformation and disinformation, causing denials of truth. And so, did you notice what happened? My videos. I was silenced. They shut me down. They terrorized me with cyber attacks. Not just on YouTube. That was the first wave. YouTube purposely tried to silence me. Then they had to get more aggressive. I was attacked. My apps, my computer couldn't function. I was under full-on attack. I have internet security. I have computer security. Worthless. I'm paying money, not getting a return on my investment. The whole security systems for our computers and internet are worthless. But interesting how you don't get targeted, only I do, along with companies and government, part of this cyber warfare that Russia and China are involved in. It's interesting why I'm the target. I'm just a man. I'm silenced by YouTube. I'm of no one of significance. Why me? Out of everyone else in the world. Nonetheless, September 22nd comes and goes. And then right the week before conference, the news obtained the leaked membership book of the secret Gadianton band, to use code, in America. And it's got Mormons in it. It's got people connected to Mormons, like Oaks. So I tested, am I allowed to do videos again? And that was the one I did. So you can see how I'm being targeted to be silenced. That should tell you that my information is correct. I don't seek to lie. I don't seek to lie about Joseph, which apparently this terrorist seems to think that I'm falsely accusing Joseph of things. Yeah, you want to continue to have everybody believe he's a child molester. That's what your intention is? By coming after me for revealing, exposing the church's lies about Joseph? There's some really sick and twisted people out there. But nothing happened. The sign that Joseph Smith was talking about Didn't happen. And it was this year. I confirmed it. But nothing happened. So what was supposed to happen? Abomination of desolation. We have it already with cyber attacks. Russia has control of our power grid. They've been playing with us to just keep testing to make sure they still are in control. 2015 is the earliest news reporting that I saw that they've been doing this. The news reporting came out saying we have Russian sleeper cells still. If you're familiar with the Reagan era, we had Russian sleeper cells, and they were activated during the Reagan era, and fortunately were stopped. But they're still here. I've gone over with you. The Russian woman who leaves the group to talk privately on the phone right next to me in Russian. And the church is involved in the financing of this attack. And so I can only conclude that they postponed it. Because nothing happened, I have to admit that. Otherwise, I'm a nutcase, believing that there's still a basement at below the pizza parlor. Or that JFK Jr. will still come. See, they're playing you for suckers and losers. Literally. If you get caught up in believing their lies, dear God, they're turning you into the weapons against America. They're getting you to do their dirty work for them. And it won't be until it's too late when you realize what they've done to you. And so, with this one, this wasn't connected to something that man can stop or prevent. This was designed to try to figure out God's plan, in short. And so, Nelson will eventually die. He's not immortal. And he will die on a specific date and a specific time. But will it fit the pattern that God has been doing? We don't know yet because he hasn't died yet. And until he dies, we won't know for certain. We can only run tests. That's all this was a test. So this video is about the sign for yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away, that I put in the description below in the other video this morning. Alrighty, so is it now 4-hour video? I have to make sure I get them all in, and that they're in an order that you can comprehend. Travis Wayne Goodsell. We're going to do segment clips for this completed video. As we are in the latter days, Mormons have in their title Latter-day Saints. It sort of implies that we're supposed to be looking forward for the latter days. And so for anybody to think that what I am doing is, extreme, fanatical, absurd, It doesn't understand science, first of all. I'm not just throwing out guesses and searching for things that have no connection with others. The pursuit of science is recognition of patterns that are involved in our daily lives, and when an anomaly comes up, we develop a sound theory that we test for confirmation or denial to explain the existence of such anomalies. So, for example, the prediction based upon all the assembled patterns is that Nelson is going to die today. And if he doesn't, that's an anomaly. And it may seem strange that somebody's death would be an anomaly, or lack of death would be an anomaly, because everybody lives day to day. Wouldn't that be an anomaly too? No. It's because of the premises, the patterns that indicate that Nelson is to die today. And that includes the previous deaths of all the presidents of the Mormon Church from Brigham Young. And I've included in my segment some new information, and that new information we'll go over with you. On 17 December 2017, this was the sign predicted in Revelation chapter 12, verse 3. The sign of the dragon. This was the 5th dark day of Hanukkah. Dark days are when the new moon is in the sky. And so that's the dark day. And the reason why I call it the dark day is Hanukkah is the festival of lights, and it's during the transition of the new moon into the dying of the old moon and the birth of the new moon. 16 days later, Monson dies on the 2nd of January 2018. Now I've had to make a correction. I had put 10:02 p.m. on the little picture. So on the picture it's corrected, and I reinforced it with the final addition that I added this morning. Thomas S. Monson dies 10:01 p.m. Now, I have no idea if that time is going to be significant, but I do recognize something significant with it, with the corrected time, 10:01. It's a reverse pattern, 10, 1, 0, and then 01, 0, 1. See how that worked? So I don't know if that will fit into play here, but there are other number patterns just like that, a number of number patterns. So this is not alone. That's why I made sure to get it corrected. On Monson's death night, the quadranted meteor showers were in the skies. They are at the tail of Draco the dragon. Revelations chapter 12, verse 4. Revelation. There's no plural. And so those have already been fulfilled. The book of Revelation is true. It's confirmed and established. multiple times now. We have other signs in the heavens that have yet to occur, but using astronomy, we already know they will occur. Revelation chapter 19, for example, gives us the star date of 8 April 2024 in connection with the marriage supper of the Lamb and the solar eclipse on the back of Pegasus. And so, why does that connect? Well, this year, today, 17 December 2021, it's not the fifth dark day of Hanukkah like it was in 2017. That was on 4 December 2021. It's 13 days earlier. This is Friday the 13th in the Jewish calendar of Tibet. And there's a significance because that was the fifth dark day of Hanukkah, except for the Jews, because it's on the Sabbath day this year, they celebrated the fifth dark day of Hanukkah on the third Friday. And Joseph Smith's translation of Revelation chapter 12 now plays a significant pattern, because verse 5 was moved to verse 3. So the sign of the dragon of verse 3 is now verse 4, and verse 4 sticks with it as a combined verse now. So the sign of the dragon and the stars falling from the tail of the dragon are combined in verse 4. And this is significant because the Jews celebrate the fifth dark day on Friday the 3rd December, which is 12/3. But it's officially on 12/4, which is what the JST moved it to. That's weird. Now there are other things that, yes, confirm that Joseph Smith Sr. knew all about astronomy, star charts, the Holiness to the Lord parchment, for example. And I did a video last night, about the Smith's knowledge of Jupiter, because that's the man-child born of Virgo on 23rd September 2017 from Revelation 12. And Friday the 13th is significant. You might recall the Knights Templar that were sought out on that day, which technically was a Thursday in the Julian calendar, but nonetheless, Friday the 13th is the celebration. And the Knights Templar is the highest rank of the York Rites Freemasonry. It's not in the Scottish Rites, just in the York Rites. And it's the highest rank. So if you knew, Hiram and Joseph Smith Sr. before 1826, we're not talking 1842 here, before 1826, were in the York Rites Freemasonry with the Knights Templar and the Egyptian gold plates and the coming to America with the Holy Grail bloodline from King David to establish New Jerusalem in America, in southern Illinois, where the crossroads of the solar eclipses occurs, as they buried their Egyptian gold plates in the caves, according to the lore, and purchased the land by the Mandan Indian tribe in the Dakotas with the Kensington Stone, 1363. And there was that, in southern Illinois, there was the native tribe that disappeared thereafter, as they were the people of the sun god, with the sun god as their god, living in the sun city, and were performing human sacrifices, symbolic of eclipses. So yes, Abraham sacrificing Isaac, I've gone over that with you. There's a messenger who comes down, and a ram. And so that's the star date of 8 April 4 CE, 2020 years before 8 April 2024. And that total solar eclipse. The one in 4 CE was over Russia. This one in 2024, America, and has significance because it's the latter days. And so when you are aware, and you're not living in denial land, that Sidney Rigdon is the major author of the Book of Mormon and was assigned to work on the Joseph Smith translation as payment for the Book of Mormon work, but you know that he's not the author of the 116 pages rewritten. Joseph Smith Sr. is. Now you can see why there are revelation star signs in the story. Lehi has his first dream, sees the signs in the heavens from Revelation. The latter day time frame, 2017 to 2024. And it's talking about the destruction of Jerusalem by Babylon in the story, when it gives us the dates in the future of the latter days. So it's not Babylon, it's not Jerusalem, is it? It's written in code because Joseph Smith Sr. was a Yorkites, well, he wasn't Yorkites ranking, he was a master mason in Canandaigua, New York. But he knew about that, as well as knew Jewish mysticism. So in verse 2, learning of the Jews' language of the Egyptians. That's what he's referring to there. Is both his knowledge of Jewish mysticism with the Tree of Life. Not a coincidence that that's in the Book of Mormon too. And Yorkites with the Knights Templar lore. They knew all that. And so now you can go back to church history and decode it, knowing the correct history that the current church refuses to let us know about. Hold on a second while I get this. And so all these things were understood when they made their changes and wrote the Book of Mormon. So the changes to the Bible and the writing of the Book of Mormon, all tied together. All this needs to be factored in when seeing what's going on. And I've provided the patterns of presidents of the church from Brigham Young dying under lunar eclipses. And obviously I'm not the cause of any of that. You know, interestingly, Brigham Young died early, prematurely. It was a ruptured appendix. So at 76 years of age, in 1877, he died early. He could have lived on. We now have the technology to save people who have a ruptured appendix. Not back then. And can you imagine the horror if he continued to live? So God literally struck him down. The God of the human body, who's behind it all. A ruptured appendix was the cause of the demise of Brigham Young. And so it becomes significant when you see what changes he made the year before he died. And so the 17th, being 13 days after the modifications made with Revelation chapter 12, we have in the heavens Mars at the star Acrab. That is parable form symbolism of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Where have we heard about that tree? Yeah, from Genesis, from the origins of man, the fall of man. Now, interestingly, the other religions who use the Bible blame women for the fall. Joseph Smith, with the Book of Mormon, and section 29, verses 36 and 40, radically changed this. We, as Mormons, are the only religion to blame Adam for the fall. Adam fell that man might be. Men are that they might have joy. Now go to Doctrine and Covenants passage that I spoke of for confirmation. You will never find Eve falling except in the JST, Moses. They keep it as is. And if you're curious, why would that be the case? Well, because the 116 pages is where that is put in. That was by Joseph Sr. Rigdon was involved with the JST. See what's going on there? That's why there's no change in Moses. But you can see Joseph Sr.'s influence with the seed that bears the Messiah. In Revelation 7:53 that I go over with you. Still in there. So talking about Enoch's seed and Noah's seed, the Lord said, Blessed is he through whose seed Messiah shall come. Our current doctrine is not in harmony with this. But the new Israelites of Jewish mysticism, yeah. The Knights Templar in York Rites, yeah. So you can see where Joseph Sr. stepped in here. Because it can't be Heavenly Father. He's not a child of Adam, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Judah, David, Moses, Jeremiah, etc. Not the case. And it's not Mary. Mary has egg, not seed. And it's not Joseph. He's not the father. He's not the baby daddy. That's the doctrine of the Messiah, the Christ, of Mormonism in its origin. Now, why then do we use Jesus? Well, because Christians get very upset. They want to kill people who don't believe in Jesus. Not too dissimilar from Islam, who want to kill people who don't believe in Allah. The Jews, who believe in a mortal Messiah, like Mormons, learning of the Jews, have tended to be chased around Europe by those other religions because of their difference in beliefs. And so the Jesus was created by Constantine in the very first creed, Nicene Creed, as a real character placed in a historical time frame of the Roman period. Because they were apocalyptic literature like the Book of Revelation. He's not a real character. And so Mary, the mother, and Mary, his wife, not real characters. They're parable story forms, symbolic and prophetic of the latter-day Christ. And so let's break here for this introduction part, I think. Did I cover the new stuff? Oh, yeah. And so Akrib is where Mars is. Mars is Nelson, because he was atop of Libra when Monson died. That's the scales of judgment, and the top position is for the judge of the scales. That's where Mars was when Nelson died, or when Monson died. That was Nelson, because he automatically becomes the president of the church because of Brigham Young's changes in the administration. And so, yes, I have to now test, as I have been all these years, to confirm that Mars is indeed Nelson. And yes, it's confirmed multiple times. Also, the sun, Amun, Emmanuel of Isaiah, the sun at noonday, falls at the tail of serpents, the dragon. You see what's going on there? Mars is at the fallen star, sun Amun, who is supposed to be Nelson, he claims the office, has fallen from the tail of serpents, the dragon. See how that works? And so that's an additional information for you, along with the other stuff that I've been giving you. And so again, I'd be surprised. I mean, we can check again to see if there's breaking news, but if he dies in his sleep, Sister Nelson may not realize it until they typically wake up in the morning. And I'm not seeing anything. Nothing at all. And then maybe they want to keep it a sacred secret because they know about my videos. They don't want me to be right. And it's not me. That's the whole thing. I just recognize the patterns and make predictions. And if it doesn't happen today, then I've got all these other things that we'll go over with you to see if we can explain it and make another theory test to predict what might happen instead. So
This is not the church of Joseph Smith.
I have faith that the Constitution will be saved as prophesied by Joseph Smith. But it will not be saved in Washington.
And a major city yet to be determined in Russia. Unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures. My dear brothers and sisters, these are the latter days. If you and I are to withstand the forthcoming perils and pressures, it is imperative that we each have a firm spiritual foundation built upon the rock of our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. What would I say to Brigham Young, Wilford Woodruff, and the other presidents on up to President Thomas S. Monson? I'm going to meet him soon.
Okay, I've decided that if Nelson does conform to the pattern, I will do a separate video that'll be short and quick, but put in there that I will have the full explanation video coming immediately. And we'll insert that into this bigger video that I'm doing here. This segment is to explain the segment I keep putting in this countdown to today, to explain it for you. The first scene, which was added fairly recently, it's one of the newer additions to it. I have appointed unto my servant Joseph to hold this power in the latter days, and there is never but one on the earth at a time on whom this power and the keys of this priesthood are conferred. Not quite. It's incorrect, but partially correct. As I've gone over in yesterday's video about the administration, yes, Joseph Smith was the president of the church, and he was prophet, seer, revelator, and translator. However, Hiram, his brother, and senior before Hiram, were not just patriarchs. They were prophets, seers, revelators too. So, who wrote this? Section 132. Ring any bells? Brigham Young put it in his Doctrine and Covenants, claimed it was Joseph who wrote it, the year before God took him. This is the polygamy chapter. CNN came out with a synopsis of Mormonism, making the grave error that Joseph Smith founded polygamy in the 1835 Doctrine and Covenants. No. This was not put in until the year before Brigham Young died. 1876 edition of the Doctrine and Covenants of his religion. In 1835's edition, Joseph had a whole chapter on monogamy, condemning polygamy. You cannot remove that from the equation, whether you're pro-Joseph being polygamist or anti-Joseph being polygamist. You cannot dismiss evidence. If you believe that Joseph Smith was a polygamist, it means you're believing the hearsay, and you now have to still explain all the evidence that Joseph was not polygamist. And you can't just say, well, because he's a liar and a deceiver. That's not sound. So yes, ex-Mormons, I'm talking to you. And so here's another example. It's a linguistic research that this is inconsistent with the doctrine concerning administration that Joseph taught. Because in section 107, verse 22, which was in the 1835 edition, Joseph explained how to succeed him upon his death. The whole Melchizedek priesthood gathered together in conclave, like the Catholics, and they vote for 3 presidents. No counselors, they can have them, I guess, but 3 presidents to form the first presidency. And of course that hasn't been practiced. That was not done when Joseph was assassinated. And I did the video explaining why Brigham Young didn't do it, and why our current Brigham Young succession pattern follows what Brigham Young said it was. Coincidental? Yeah, no. And so this is a false claim by Brigham Young, and he is using it to justify him, Brigham Young, to be the only one to have these keys. And yet he also gave them away to all his prophets, which is why all prophets of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are called prophets, seers, revelators. Wait, where's translator? Exactly. They don't even have patriarch. After Kimball, gone. Got rid of that Smith guy. And it was only... that also is a tell about what Joseph planned to do with his administration had he not been assassinated. That his family could have been the successors to the presidency, as Emma Smith made that claim, and is why she waited until Joseph Smith III was older, and then he made the choice on his own to form the reorganized church, named after Brigham Young's change, because he had no idea what was going on, and so went to Utah to check out Brigham's church, and then created his own. Wrong one to pattern. Should have obtained your father's original documents and formed it from that, and trusted to keep it the Church of Christ. So this does play a significant role in the consequences for the Great and Abominable Church now. We've now identified the Great and Abominable Church. They've tampered with the records, just like the Book of Mormon says they would. Okay, so on to the next scene. I won't be running, which kind of sucks. Too much snow, still too dangerous to run, and so my health is deteriorating rather quickly in my older age. Alright, the Lord will never permit me or any other man who stands as president of this church to lead you astray. It is not in the program. It is not the mind of God. If I were to attempt that, the Lord would remove me out of my place. And so he will any other man who attempts to lead the children of men astray from the oracles of God and from their duty. Wilford Woodruff, Official Declaration, verse 11. What was that in response to? Yes, the United States of America came in and shut down the whole church. They allowed them to practice their religion. They just couldn't function as an organization. Leadership toppled. The organization gone. It was now called the Late Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in court documents and in the Supreme Court. And part of that was because of polygamy. And here he is saying, oh, the Lord will never allow presidents of the church to lead you astray, otherwise God will take us. Isn't that interesting? Okay, says God, I'll take you then. You got it. I already took Brigham and John for it. And sure enough, Wilford Woodruff likewise fits that pattern. As I then follow it up with the lunar eclipses with the presidents of the church's deaths. And because Joseph was the only one of those who were assassinated, his doesn't count. His was forced. And so Brigham, like I said in the introduction clip, ruptured appendix, died early, unnecessarily, had we had the knowledge and technology to remove appendixes when they burst back then. And then John Taylor, and then Wilford Woodruff. Wilford Woodruff had an anomaly. He was in the middle between two. The old and the new church of the Great and Abominable Church? Yes, indeed. And so Lorenzo Snow and Joseph F. Smith, Sr. are asterisks. Church shut down the church under Wilford Woodruff. It ended and died with him. And technically died during his lifetime. So he ended his presidency when the Edmunds-Tucker Act took effect and the Supreme Court made their final decision against the church. And so Lorenzo Snow and Joseph F. Smith Sr., they're just going through the motions to deceive Mormons. They're false prophets too. And God let us know that that's what they were, with the patterns of the lunar eclipses with them as well. And so Heber J. Grant starts up the church again. And notice how we're now Christian. We're dismissing all claims of Joseph Smith. You've probably heard of the one Arizona woman, Mormon, ex-Mormon now, who did her thesis paper on the super sacred secret meeting of Mormon intellectuals in 1922. You need to put that into your historical context here. In 1921, Heber J. Grant altered the Doctrine and Covenants again. Took out the doctrine from the Doctrine and Covenants. Really? You're removing the doctrine from the Doctrine and Covenants. 2022, the intellectuals are realizing that the church history is not real history, and they're not smart enough to realize it's code. And in 1923, Heber J. Grant then reincorporates the church, having Mormons in positions of government office to get away with it. And becomes evangelical Mormonism. We have the exact same Christ. The statue looks the same. Did that video yesterday. And so he removed the doctrine and considers church history now real church history, literal as spoken by Joseph. But yet turn Joseph into Christian. But there's some problems, and it's now coming back to bite the church. This is what happens when you lie and deceive. God comes back to smite you. So yes, there's been a massive exodus from the church. There's the one in 2012, reporting for 2011, where upwards of 10 million just left, because the numbers were less then. It wasn't 16 million as the church claims now. It was more down around 15 million. And that was the big news back in that day, is that the Church of Jesus Christ has lost a record number of membership. We count members differently than Christian religions. For Christian religions, they determine the faithfulness of the people by those in attendance at the masses and meetings. The church, however, automatically tracks and assigns a number once you're baptized. And they don't let go when you stop attending church, or when you tell them, I'm out. Take my name off the records. Yeah, they don't quite do that. There's a reason why they stay away from you when they know who you are when you move into their neighborhood. They already have it on the records at church headquarters that you're an ex-Mormon. You asked to have your name removed. How would they know that if they had your name removed from the records? Yes, they keep track of everybody and detailed personal information to track you down. My brother is in that position. So the second wave of loss is on him. And I have no idea how low church attendance numbers are that caused the prophets to not reveal the membership numbers for this year to the state of Utah. But it has to be massive of a difference, because last year people stayed home for a brief period of time. Why aren't you factoring in last year? And so, it's clear Mormons are leaving. They've had enough of the church in their lives, and they're out. And so the few that remain are the ones who are the abusers, who are attacking me and giving me death threats and thumbs down and blah, blah, blah. And so it's not just with this. There are other patterns as well. But I think we got the video next. I'm going to meet them soon, says Nelson. Yeah, that's what it is.
This is not the church of Joseph Smith.
Yeah, it's not the church of Joseph Smith. All right. So that must be that segment then. So then after that little thing from Nelson, which, yes, he used it in the context in the Book of Mormon, that if you're not the church of the Lamb, you're the church of the devil. So, yes, it's kind of important when he said, this is not the church of Joseph Smith, which was called the Church of Christ. Joseph Smith was the Christ. This is not the church of Jesus Christ. That's a different God, a false God that the Jesus character in the first vision says is an abomination in his sight. And it just all goes over the heads of Mormons. They don't see it, they don't catch it, because we're not told what a creed is. And we're not told the verse creed. So I wonder what John Penny is doing now, if he's still Mormon. Because he was all excited to me. He had taken a class on the popes and learned about all of the animals that were popes for a period of time and objects that were popes. And a period where there was no pope, and then a pope just decided to declare himself as pope. So he was having a lot of fun with that class and talked about Constantine. I already knew it. I already took that class through various other form. But through Thomas Robinson, who became our combined Greek teacher. He took Greek when I did take Greek with Thomas Robinson. And I referred Thomas Robinson to John Penny to do the project, which if you go on Amazon, you'll still see his Greek dictionary that has the lesson manual testing CD-ROM. He asked me to make that, and I had graduated. I was going back to America, and so I recommended John Penny to do that. And I think John Penny told me when he came down for BYU that I can't remember if he said he did it or if he had to pass on it too. Can't remember, but yeah, he got somebody to do it eventually. So, but that's how influential I've been, that I almost was that person in that thing. But different story. 10 March 1843, Joseph Smith gives a sign in the heavens, and says that it gives a prophecy of this sign in the heaven for the future of the latter days. And the moon is right there on the 9th day, if I remember correctly, on the 10th of March 1843. So it would be the first quarter moon. And what is interesting is that somewhere in all of this, I found a latter-day correspondence with Jupiter instead of the moon this time. And it was at the beginning of the tetrad, the first day of the first lunar eclipse of the tetrad in 2014-2015. Jupiter was right there in that same location. So that I found very curious, having found this out because of a Mormon who did a video on this as if his dream was also part of the sign in the heaven the next day that he talked about. So I revised and corrected his video with it was over an hour, wasn't it? And so, yes, sure enough, soon thereafter, 13 to 14 December 2021, fulfilled. How was it fulfilled? LDS Church uses tithing to pay for Russian ransomware attack, takes down HR and payroll company software, potentially for several weeks. Kronos. Don Glenn, if I remember the name correctly, the Mormon, who's now in the Temple Finance Committee. That was his company. The church uses it. And again, Russia attacks America, cyber attack on America, using Mormon-run organizations. SolarWinds was last year. And so these companies need to be, these attackers need to be paid. Where are they getting the money from? At a major city yet to be determined in Russia. That could be one of the clips that follows this, I think. So that other clip might be a little while longer. But, I mean, dear God, if there's any more blatant of a tip for the government investigators, I don't know it yet. How could they not figure this out? Especially after I let them know. Mormon company, solar winds. Church, direct ties with Putin, all the way back to Hinckley. Nelson comes out, major city yet to be determined in Russia. Quid pro quo, covered by Max Roth, Fox 13 News Utah, the very next month. Oh, hey, that tax bill that Senator Orrin Hatch said was supposed to be for the poor, Trump thought it was his, was actually for the church, so that they could get out LLC corporations to receive $32 billion from Russia and not have to report it to the government. And then they laundered that money into the stock market. And the government can't figure out that the church is behind the financing of this attack on America? Oh my God! This is follow the money, this is follow the documents, this is follow the blatant confession over the pulpit of conference. Dear God. So, yeah, we're getting to the video portion next.
I have faith that the Constitution will be saved as prophesied by Joseph Smith. But it will not be saved in Washington.
How'd I do? As Mormons, we're all interrelated with each other, so our vocal cords are the same. We all marry our brothers and sisters. That is kind of crucial, what he said there. And all Mormons have missed it. Even I myself missed it until I realized the real church history and such. He's saying, well, yeah, Joseph Smith is a prophet, sure. But he's wrong about saving it in Washington. He took that out for General Conference. That was a BYU devotional. And thank God for the invention of the video camera. And the Rigby, Idaho boys, Mormon boys, who invented television. And so, dear God, the prophets have known and are behind the attacks on America. It's Ezra Taft Benson. He was a member of the government, Secretary of Agriculture. He was Mr. Anti-Communism, but never once did he decry Nazism. Nobody decried Nazism in this church. Nobody. I think I remember a letter that George Albert Smith sent to the government decrying communism, socialism, and other isms. But that's about it.
And a major city yet to be determined in Russia.
Russia, Russia, Russia. Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. And so then I have ba-boom. So Nelson declared himself and the church as enemies of America. Terrorist organization in that simple statement that you can hear in the background. The Mormons are cheering. And so, yes, the mark of the beast. In this particular case, it's the appointed time prediction for Nelson to die on his forehead, 17 December 21. And I show the pattern. I made the picture. 2021 to 2022 lunar tetrad. Gave the dates for each one. And then likewise showed how it's similar in that there's a solar eclipse in between them. Wow, cool. And so very interesting. Yeah, it was 2020, the annular eclipse over the whole old world on Father's Day. That's right. And so then you have an ex-Mormon who he and his wife posed in the sacred temple robes and showed the penalty sign. And I put the heads of each and every single prophet over his head. Because they're all from that old school. They all know what that means. They know the penalty. I remember the penalty, and they're older than me. So, in fact, many of the top guys were apostles when the penalty was finally removed by Benson in 1991. And so notice that I put lunar eclipses above each of their heads. That was a new addition to the original one with just them with the penalties. And so notice the solar eclipse, 5th dark day of Hanukkah. Alright, so then we have my first recognition of a pattern as I went over the additional information of this. So Revelation 12:3 is the sign of the dragon. It's dated as a star date to 17 December 2017, which was the dark day of Hanukkah. Joseph Smith translation, again, Sidney Rigdon, Joseph Smith Sr. Revelation 12:4 includes both verse 3 and 4, now combined in 4 because verse 5 is moved to verse 3. And it just happens to be this year that the 3rd and 4th of December 2021 is considered by the Jews as the 5th dark day of Hanukkah. Just blows my mind, because it means John was wrong to put verse 5 where he did, but because he put verse 5 where he did, the Smiths with Rigdon were able to change it, and that was able to catch my eye. So fascinating. I'm a big kid now. Alright, A Time to Die, Ecclesiastes 3:2. There's a Doctrine and Covenants passage that says appointed time. Alright, so then I show the sign in the heaven on Joseph Smith translation, Revelation 12:4, 17 December 2021. Mars is right there at the star Acrab. It's a little small, you have to zoom in, I guess, if you can do that. It's 3 o'clock. Let's do a death check-in. Nope. Still have the USU chief resigning after comments about Mormon girls. We all know exactly what those comments were, don't we, Utah Mormon boys? Shame on you. Even if it's true, what are you doing? Go away. You shouldn't be saying such things. It's not funny jokes. It's all fun and games calling Brigham Young University Brigham Young University. But when you get into criminal comment behavior, that's crossing the line. And so the moon is on the head of Taurus the bull, and by this evening it will be between the horns, just so that you know. And it has to do with the Egyptian Apis bull ceremony of the death of the king and the crowning of the new king, who is the firstborn birthright blessing son of Pharaoh. But in this particular case, Nelson dies, Oaks takes over. That's not the pattern. Something's wrong. If you're not the Church of Lucifer, why do you act like it? That's significant. Creating a bundled church. Blatantly obvious, carved-in stone facts. I still would like to know if they're going to chisel those out with the restoration of the Salt Lake Temple. That would be hilarious. They're trying to cover it up. Alright, so here's the death threat to me. There's a significance why there's a death threat. And so, yeah, he's going to refer to perils. These are the latter days. So where does he get that from? Well, Joseph Smith was in Liberty Jail. And not only writing about losing your authority for being a bad guy and covering things up. Many are called, few are frozen. But section 122 also, in verse 5, if thou art in perils among false brethren. He's talking to me. Not quite James Huntsman. James Huntsman already lost by this point. He called tithing a donation. I'm the one who gave the tips and put it in my lawsuits that tithing is not a donation. It's forced. And I had the money trail evidence, but I was denied petitioning for a redress of grievances. Our system of justice is so broken. So there. He was giving me a death threat over the pulpit of conference. And whosoever of those who belong to their band, Babylon band, should reveal unto the world of their wickedness and their abominations, should be tried, not according to the laws of their country. but according to the laws of their wickedness. Helaman chapter 6, verse 24. Yep, that's me.
What would I say to Brigham Young, Wilford Woodruff,
I forgot John Taylor.
and the other presidents on up to President Thomas S. Monson? I'm going to meet him soon.
Yeah. Are you? That's what we're testing today to find out. Mormon God's death design for Mormon prophets. This is the Deadpool of God. Not me, God. I'm the one who found out. I'm the reporter who obtained the one Deadpool from the production director of the movie where Jim Carrey dies with his Welcome to the Jungle scene. Clint Eastwood's Deadpool. Alright, so then I go back in time and I didn't do the Faust Hinckley one. I showed Hinckley's, but did that other video showing that Faust and Hinckley are interconnected with each other's deaths according to the patterns, and it was a reverse pattern with them that I had seen. But here's Perry Packer Scott for 2014-2015. Very significant, and I did some more research with theirs to see, if nothing happens today, I've now got to figure out, well, is there something that I'm missing? And instead, I found something more to add to today. And so if nothing happens today, dear God, what is God up to? Is he sleeping? Is he taking a piss? The corrected translation from Isaiah and the priests of Baal. A little mockery on myself. See, I can have fun with myself. You guys have no sense of humor. And so, yeah, all three of them, Perry Packer Scott, dead in between the third and the fourth. And so this is something that I am curious because there's a reverse pattern going on with this tetrad. And if the theory is correct, we should have it today, according to the reverse pattern. Because the first shall be last, last shall be first. 3 prophets die first, then Monson. Technically, Hales also comes before. He's not with these guys, he's a separate one. And because he didn't fit a pattern, at least I thought, I just let him go. He's an anomaly that I've never yet figured out, but I think I have now. Where are you? There you are. Say this morning, I decided to check. He died on, Robert D. Hales died 1st of October 2017. If you're unfamiliar with that date, that's when the Las Vegas incident occurred at the altar position of the Pyramid Hotel. I caught that. This was one of those incidences that is disturbing because the news claims it's all real. But I watched the local news. They were committing some gross errors of reporting. They were already accusing the man as the shooter. They weren't saying the accused. They were saying the shooter. It's not how you do things. There's been no investigation yet. We don't know he's the shooter. We just know that there was a raid in his room, and we were sort of left out of the loop, and then they finally showed us the room, and it was all neat and tidy and organized as if somebody had staged the scene. But then the reporter that I saw that evening, before I found out that it was even a potential red flag event and other things, that they were advertising to have people stage a shooting incident, and they needed actors and crisis actors. But no, I was watching Independent that evening. The female reporter was in the dark reporting at the scene and making her mistakes, and should technically have been sued by the family, because that's why they can't say certain things, is because families have won lawsuits with such claims. But nonetheless, there was an interview with a particular guy who was claiming that his buddy who was there with him had his head blown off. Wow, that's quite dramatic. Well, later on that day, I saw another news coverage of that same man who's now being reunited with his buddy in the hospital, and supposedly he only has a chest wound. But if you're unfamiliar with wounds, they tend to bleed. Why is there a clean white gauze pad just lying on his chest? Not taped down, no stains, clean white, just sitting on his chest. Why is it staged? Why is his head still attached? And then, oh yeah, it's so great you're alive. We're on TV. We're famous. I saw the coverage of people being sent into the hospital. I didn't see severe wounds. I didn't see bleeding. These are things you look for, because I recognized that somebody was trying to pull a fast one on me. I was watching the footage of the scene of the crime. Somebody had taken footage from a distance of the whole scene from an aerial view. I didn't see people's heads getting blown off, but again, purposely way back, just like those Bigfoot sightings and UFO sightings, purposely blurred and from a distance. Those are the kinds of things that send up red flags. I'm well aware that there are people who still claim that they lost loved ones there, and there were funerals held, but the news withheld any of that actual evidence. See, in the early days, during the Vietnam War, for example, other wars that we didn't really declare as wars, we get live coverage from the news. And there are some very famous photos taken from those battles where you can see the suffering, you can see the violence. The news does not report anymore. They do not investigate. They do not show us what happened. All of the cell phone coverage confiscated. And so we, as an audience, are just supposed to believe whatever we're being told by the news. And I have learned, no, you can't trust the news anymore. The news took down a president of the United States, and for that, the government retaliated and silenced the press. As the producers of the company purposely... What's up with that? Something's not right. Because that would be... That would be those two. So, yeah, we can do that one. What is that? Why is that not included? So, yeah, things were... Where did I put it? Talking about you. Stay here. Stay where I can see you. And so, yeah, problems galore. You know, if people are hurt, I want to see them hurt. You're not going to convince me people were hurt by covering things up and not showing the severed arms and blown off heads. Yeah, I know. Homemakers were concerned and they didn't like all the violence on the news. The news is too violent. Let's talk about fluffy dogs and grandma's apple pies. That's not news. We need to know what's going on so that we don't minimize it. That we take it seriously. When a cop shoots an unarmed black man in the back, we need to see the cam footage. Don't stop it before he shoots him. Show it. We need to see for ourselves that that officer committed a hate crime against an American citizen. Don't cover it up. You know, but the police purposely keep the press at a distance so that they can't see that the police officers are planting evidence and other stuff like that. You know, everybody wants to cover up crime. And so, yeah, it was a very disturbing news event. As now the press is saying, oh, yeah, all those people who think it's a hoax. Well, if we'd have honest press in the first place, we wouldn't have people creating hoaxes. The majority of people would say, no, I saw it for myself. I saw the guy's head blown off. It was not Hollywood magic. But they just keep perpetuating the cycle of mistrust and guilt everybody who mistrusts them for causing the mistrust in the first place. So anyway, Hales dies too. His moon was 10 days old and was in the belly of the beast, Capricorn, the goat beast, half fish, half goat, the goat beast. The Satanists used the goat for the physical representation symbol of the inverted pentagram. So the little goatee of the goat is the chin portion of the pointing down star, or pointing down part of the star. And then the two horns of the goat are the top part. And so that's significant. Mars and Venus were at the feet of Leo, trampled upon by the Utahns, Mormons, the 12 apostles. But it only has 9 stars. Interestingly, their 3 deaths are replaced by 3 making 9 apostles 12 again. This was in preparation. I will do that video covering that. That's going to be a different segment, as apparently this is going to be hours long going over all this. Jupiter has already been born since September 23rd and is now 8 days old. We have a 10-day-old moon with an 8-day-old Jesus Christ of Mormons. And I've gone over Jupiter, how that ties in with the Smiths, the Jupiter stone, and Jupiter on the Holiness to the Lord star chart parchment. And section 85, Nelson will be struck down by lightning, or like the vivid shaft of lightning. That's Jupiter's symbol, where the Jupiter astronomical sign is signified by the 2-4 combo. But Jupiter's physical symbols are the lightning bolt, eagle, and the oak tree. So I did the video the other day about Jupiter, or covering that part about Jupiter and Ezekiel 17. Smiths knew all that. That's about the latter-day Messiah and how we will know him. You're supposed to listen to me and pull out your little checklist and say, okay, well, the last days Mormon Christ needs to be born in San Francisco, lived in Oakland for his nativity, and then moved to Michigan, and then had been a hiker of mountains to the tops of the mountains, and then is in Utah for the latter days. You're supposed to have all of that on your checklist, right? You're checking it off to find him. You're searching for the true Christ, aren't you? You're not searching for a false Christ, are you? You're not just waiting for him to appear, because you'll never know, because the prophets have told you that the redactors of Matthew said that no man knows the day or the hour. Oh, okay, I guess I'll just not worry and not look, even though you already gave the date and the hour to us with the star sign, star date. Mercury is now on the shoulders of Virgo, and Saturn falls at the tail of serpents. So there you have a falling star at the tail of the dragon with hails. And there's the connection, is falling stars at the tail of dragons. Isn't that interesting? So I'd have to do more research for that whole thing, but very curious. And so, yeah, the 2014-2015 tetrad was during Jewish holy days, but the solar eclipse was not. This is reversed for 2021-2022. The solar eclipse at the South Pole, 5th dark day of Hanukkah. The lunars, not Jewish holy days. So, very significant. So yes, I've gone into great detail that I'll do in another segment. Whoops, almost shut that off. And then the eclipses with prophets' deaths shown again. And I give you enough time so that you can read over it. But you will have to press pause if you're actually going to read over it. But I give you a little more time. Okay, and then I made this picture of the 2021-2022 lunar tetrad showing the dates for each eclipse with the solar on the 5th dark day of Hanukkah, patterned after the other one. Another guy did that one, and I had to trim it off because he was putting some nonsense in there. You might be able to catch a glimpse of his nonsense with the solar eclipse part. Alright, so here's the one I had to edit. It's when Monson died. First shall be last, last shall be first. See, first were the apostles dying, then Monson. And now it appears Nelson's going to die first. I'm checking. This is part of the test. You don't just do one test and say, oh, I'm good, I'm fine, I figured it out, everything's fine. No, you keep testing. You do other types of testing to see if it confirms the original theory. For Paleo-Hebrew, I had to test it against the actual linear script of the hieroglyphic characters from Egyptian. And then once that was confirmed, I didn't stop there. I went to Paleo-Greek, tested it with that, tested it with Greek, then went to Chinese, tested it with Chinese. And so, yes, I confirmed that. And then I can keep confirming the script through the vocabulary tests. And I've been doing those for you on my videos. Talking about David being son Amen. All that's part of the test to confirm the script. So here we have Monson, and I correct it. I cross out the 02, and it doesn't seem very prominent of a cross out, but I put 10:01 p.m. below it because it may be significant, but I won't know until something happens, and they tell us. If the news doesn't tell us, we may never know. And so then the sign in the heavens, the tail of the dragon, Draco, Revelation 12:4, quadrant and meteor showers. And then I showed the lunar eclipse that corresponded with his death. That was the longest super blood blue wolf total lunar eclipse full moon, 31st of January 2018. Technically it's not a wolf because it's a blue, but it's in January, which his was the wolf moon. The super moon was on the 1st, but carried over onto the 2nd. The 2 days were considered the super full moon. That's how super it was. And so I throw in wolf because it's in the January month for the blue moon. I still have the t-shirt. And then I still show the star chart. The moon, moon is in Cancer, entering into Cancer. It's on the behind of the crab. And then Draco the dragon with the quadranted meteor showers. And there I show Mars with Jupiter. See, Jupiter is supposed to be the true Christ. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are supposed to know this guy and hand over the keys of authority to him. But nope, Nelson takes over and is Mars. So, isn't that interesting? At the top of the scales of judgment. And so, you think that's what God's program is? Wilford Woodruff? That in the latter days, you're supposed to reject giving the keys of authority to the true Christ of Mormons? Well, if you've created a different Christ and made an idol god image of him, probably not. You're probably going to say no, just like Pharaoh said no to Moses. Alright, and so there's the 31st of January. Mars is now being judged, and the moon is now at the head of the crab. Alrighty, so this is when I did a pre-check on the chart check for the presidents of the church. I had known about a 9-year and 9-month. I mistakenly thought Hinckley was the 9 years. It's Benson. And then had to add in Kimball to this because I started to check. And then after realizing Kimball was involved, then I said, you know what, maybe I should check all the presidents, and then came up with the chart that I did. So President Kimball died at 90 years old. President Benson, 9-year presidency. President Hunter, 9-month presidency. Seeing a pattern? I am. President Hinckley, 13-year presidency, 97 years old. That doesn't fit any pattern. But it does in the bigger picture. Because who replaced him? Monson, who died at 90 years old, and Nelson took over. Nelson was born on 9/9. Technically, 9/7, because September comes from the 7th month as a meaning of the word. Septem, octem, novem, decem. 7, 8, 9, 10. So why is it 9, 10, 11, 12 months? And the manner in which those who referred to Septem as the 7th month, and it's still, you see Joseph Smith doing it too. You put the day first, then the year. And so 9th day of the 7th month, 97. 97 years old right now. And it's Friday the 13th in Tevet, the Jewish calendar month. 13th day. The solar eclipse was the new moon, thus the first day. And so now it's the 13th day. And he's 97 years old. See how that pattern now fits? I ran the test. Oh, we got a confirmation. But again, if he doesn't die today, that's now ruined. So that becomes an anomaly. But Monson dying as his start of his presidency then ends, there's a tie-in there. And going over these with you, I show you how that birth and death thing correspond? Because Monson died the first year his birthday was in the first year of the latter days, the 21st of August 2017, the first day of darkness over the whole United States of America. And he died at 90 years old. And so the birth and death thing coincides. So Samuel Elamanite, the birth and death sign of Jesus, not Jesus, it's star dates he's giving us from Lehi's dream in the beginning of the book. But the birth of the actual Christ of Mormons, the mortal man, mortal parents, 17th of March 1970 is what I've found out to be his birthday. And that has a significance in that the British Druids were the ones who created the battle with serpents. The snakes chased out of Ireland. They were chased out of Ireland long before that. They created a prophecy of him. So his celebration day is the birth of the future Christ, of whom the British Druids were prophesying of. And they were sun gods. Emmanuel, sun at noonday, sun god of the Egyptians. And that birthday is the death day of St. Patrick. They knew what they were doing. And so it is kind of confusing to those who are clueless. They're like, this is his death date, not his actual birth date, that is being celebrated on the 17th of March. And so when you go back to church history, what's celebrated on the 17th of March? Well, nothing anymore. Nelson canceled the women's conference. He has silenced women again. And this time the cry hasn't been big enough to bring it back. Yeah, March 17th, 1842, Joseph Smith organized the priesthood organization of women. Called it the Relief Society, but it said it's the same pattern as the men's organization of the priesthood. Even pointed out Aaronic priesthood offices of deacon and teacher for the Relief Society. Right there in the talk. And Oakes instead has been quoted as saying it is not God's program to give women the priesthood. Joseph gave it to him. So whose program? So yeah. And this I've also been doing because if it happens and Nelson dies, Oakes takes over. So now I got to say, okay, well, can I find out when Oakes will die? So that's what all this was about. And we might have something on that. But we have to wait. It's still a hypothesis at the moment. So, very significant how there are patterns and reverse patterns and sub-patterns that are all taking effect in here. And again, 13, Friday the 13th, Knights Templar, when they attack on them. This is a reminder, just like the church reminded me of the 13th went on my second wedding by putting me in room number 13 at the Salt Lake Temple. So Nelson is the 17th president. Next is number 18. 18 equals 9 plus 9. remember 21st night. So Nelson's 97th birthday, 9/9/2021. September means 7th month. 21 days left in September. 31 days in October. 30 days in November. 17 days in December. 99 days. Holy crap. Who could have figured that one out? God. And I gave you quite a while to watch that. Alright, so 2 sets of 99 during a tetrad, 2 sets of lunar eclipses with a solar eclipse in between. Alright. So 17 December 2021, Friday the 13th of Tevet, Babylon's first siege of Jerusalem in 597. I think it was actually earlier, but 597 is the official replacement of Zedekiah on the throne. The first year of the reign of King Zedekiah in the Book of Mormon. There's more to the Book of Mormon than I even realized. It's the 4th month of the civil calendar, the 10th month of the religious calendar. It is the month of Dan. Brighamites, Danites. Do you remember? So, Tevet, 4th civil, 10th religious, 1st Babylonian siege. Isn't it interesting that the actual Babylonian captivity is Tammuz, which is the 10th civil, 4th religious. The reverse pattern. Who could have figured this out? So yes, I'm very curious to see if the church also goes with Nelson, or if this is just a symbol to mark the... So we'll have to wait and see. So then, Way to Perfection, Joseph Fielding Smith Jr., page 290, 291. At Adam on Diamond, there will be a transfer of authority from the usurper, Lucifer. Doesn't Nelson hold the authority? To the rightful king, Jesus? He's not our Christ. Would they be willing to give it up to the true Christ? Or does somebody have to take it from them and then give it to the true Christ? So yes, the keystone, Salt Lake Temple, essential principle or part of a policy, system, etc., on which all else depends. There it is on the Mormon Temple at headquarters. So very disturbing. But the prophet from Deuteronomy, from the author of the person claiming to be Moses, which shall presume to speak a word in my name. He did last night, or yesterday. Video was released on social media, which I have not commanded him to speak. Yeah, baby Jesus in the Roman period? Yeah, the true Christ and God would never allow him to say such things if he were going to be honest with Mormons and not deceive them, being the false prophet in Christ, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. So it's prophesied. And then Joseph Smith also gets involved. We need to take a break. And so this is just the prophecies about the deaths. And so here, Revelation, John says both the beast and the false prophet are going to be cast into hell. And then Joseph Smith's 85:8, the vivid shaft of lightning. I've already gone over that one with you with Jupiter. All right, and then the new stuff I've already covered. Okay. Alright, still nothing yet. I'm gonna check. You know, like I said, we'll never know until they tell us. So, the next thing we'll go over in this segment is a review of 2014-2015's tetrad with the pattern connection with this one, which is somewhat of a reverse pattern. We'll include the signs during each of the deaths of Perry Pecker Scott. We don't have any deaths yet for this one, so there's nothing to compare those with, but there's some significant information from them that we can use to run tests. So the first one occurred on 15th of April 2014. Jupiter was in Gemini. I went over in the other clip of that significance, tying to Joseph Smith and his seeing of the sign in the heaven and giving his interpretation of it for the latter days. The moon is in Virgo. Now this is what's supposed to be a full moon, because lunar eclipses are an eclipse like a new moon, but during a full moon. So these are significant. So it's in Virgo. Virgo is the woman giving birth, and Jupiter is right there in Gemini at the beginning of it. So there's some significances. You know, you got twins, feuding brothers for the birthright blessing, Yahab, you know, that comes into play, as the true Messiah is the one through whom the birthright blessing son gets to come through. And so Esau was supposed to be the one, but Jacob, the usurper, usurped the birthright blessing from Esau, and so he was named Israel, Yah, Prince of God. Now he is going to be the seed through whom Messiah will come. From that selections from the book of Moses, chapter 7, verse 53. And so why did Nelson not know this? Translating it incorrectly? And so you can see the start. The moon is in Virgo for birth. The birth of a tetrad right there in Virgo. And Gemini has Jupiter to remind us of that biblical story of Jacob and Esau. The next one was on 8th of October 2014. And Jupiter was now at the claw of Cancer, and the moon is now in Pisces. Remember, this is the birth year, and there it is in Pisces. Jupiter, 17th of March, 1970. So Benson's To the Youth of the Noble Birthright also has play in this. Not just his, the Constitution will not be saved in Washington, Joseph Smith is a fallen false prophet, I'm the true prophet now, and we're going to destroy America. By Benson. And so yes, you got another birth sign. Pisces and Virgo are birth signs. Then the solar eclipse on 20th of March 2015. Jupiter is still in Cancer. Again, it retrogrades for a pregnancy period. That's why he's designated as the Christ in the heavens of the planets. The eclipse is in Pisces. This is significant when we get to April 2024. because there's an eclipse in Pisces on the back of Pegasus. And Jupiter, this time, is in Aries. It's the death sign. Samson goes over the 3 solar eclipses of the latter days over America. The first, 21st of August 2017, in the constellation of Leo, the lion. Samson kills a lion. Samson is the Sun King. Shemesh, sun, and at the end, as a prefix determinative, or a suffix determinative, sorry, as I'm the one who deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, that's the king indicator. And if it's a land, it's kingdom. And so that gives us the date in the story of Samson, star date. The next, Samson's first wife is assassinated. She's murdered, along with her father, represented by the sun. The Sun King Samson is on earth. Father is in heaven. The Sun King. Same name. Isaiah. Ammon. Ammon. Father Ammon. Son Ammon. Same thing. Father and the son. So the father and his daughter, who was the first wife of Samson, are murdered by burning. It's an annular eclipse, this time in Virgo, 14 October 2023. So that's a prediction. Hasn't happened yet. But I'm willing to take any bets to the contrary. The higher you go, the more you get to show. And so, the third one, Samson, takes down the pillars of the Philistine temple and killing them, but himself in the process. The final one in Pisces, where he, Jupiter, Samson, the Sun King, is in Aries. So, significant. And its position in Aries is also significant, because with this solar eclipse, the final tetrad of this one is significant, but we'll get to that. 4th April, the morning of conference, 2015. Jupiter is still in Cancer, and the moon is at Spica, the Bethlehem star, the star of Bethlehem, in Virgo. The moon is born. So you're still seeing a birth being symbolized here. And then Perry Packer Scott. We'll go over theirs next. We'll cover the last of the tetrad. 28th of September 2015. Jupiter is at the back of the feet of Leo now. It's been born out of the crab and is now in Leo. And it's at the back of the feet of Leo. And the moon, Pisces. So you're seeing birth and death being trampled on by the feet of Leo the lion. But the moon is in Pisces when it is eclipsed. Birth and death symbolized together as one. And so this was pre-latter days. The birth of the latter days, literally, as demonstrated in the symbolism of the tetrad in 2014 2015. And awaiting 2 more years until the actual one, because September is the month of the start of the Christ of the latter days, the first year. Even though 2016 was the conception, that's when a certain king on the throne of Jerusalem was placed by Babylon. In the first year, 2017. See, that was code. Can you figure out the code? If you can't, I'm surprised. So Perry died 30th of May, 2015. The moon was 12 days old, and was at the feet of Virgo, trampled on by Virgo. The mother betrayed him. Mars, the Sun, and Mercury are on the crown of Taurus, the bull. The Apis bull, Apis bull, the transition from the old king dying to the new one. Perry dying. Somebody's going to replace him. And then Jupiter is in Cancer. And Venus is on the shoulder of Gemini. So that's where all the players are involved. I don't have Saturn. Saturn was out of the picture. Probably should have found where Saturn was. 3rd of July, 2015. Packer dies. He was the president of the Quorum of the 12. So with his death, and with Perry and Scott dying, Nelson takes over. This is significant. This all plays in if you aren't catching on yet. So the moon is now 17 days old. It's at the back of the goat-based Capricorn. Well, it's on the back, technically. So normally would be in the belly if that's where it was patterned to be in. What's interesting is Venus next year, pulls a stunt of going out of the realm. It does a figure 8 pattern, but it's going in the upward pattern to the Shield constellation. So that was kind of interesting. The Sun and Mars were in Gemini, and so you see the dualism that's going on there. Jupiter and Venus are in conjunction at Leo, and Mercury is at the horn of Taurus, which is at the flaming torch of Orion, the club. I call it a flaming torch. It's the club that beats the animal that's in his other arm up in the sky. This is Osiris for the Egyptians, that constellation. And so that has a significance as to the location of it, because Osiris dies. Horus eventually will take over, but in the meantime, Satan, King Set, takes over on the throne. 22 September 2015, Scott dies, just 6 days before the end of the time period to die. 9 days, moon. It's on the back of Sagittarius now. Mercury is in the womb of Virgo. The Sun is on the shoulder of Virgo, obviously. Jupiter is in the belly of Leo. the lion. And Mars is at Regulus. Isn't that interesting? Mars gets moved in to be the king of the Quorum of the 12. Nelson. See how that was done? And then Venus is at the Cancer's claw, and Saturn, here's the falling star, is at Acrob, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the fruit that caused the fall, according to the Genesis story, and according to the symbolism. So, very significant with this. So with Scott's death, indulge me for a little bit, just a touch, a little bit. Let's see, it was under Monson, Thomas S. Monson, Quorum of 12. No, Scott is further back on the list. Perry and Packer were before Nelson. So, yeah, interesting. So when Packer then died, Nelson took over. But Scott has the symbol of Mars taking over. And it makes sense, because that was right before conference, when it was officially announced to the church, even though it was automatic in the quorum. So, let's get this. Do we have a bigger one? Yeah. There we go. Just a touch. A little bit. Just a touch. Just a touch. Monson 12. Okay. So yeah, he was after Nelson, Oakes, and Ballard. So if he's still alive, he'd still not be in any of the leadership positions. And there's Hales. He's after Scott. And then Holland is after Ballard currently. And then Bednar, Cook, Christofferson, Anderson, and then the new guys that replaced the three and Hales. Interesting. Okay. So yeah. Alright. 21 to 22. This tetrad. We've already had 3 of the 5 involved eclipses. So those are all facts. So we have the other 2 that are predictions currently. Anybody want to take your bets against me? The moon on the 26th of May 2021 was in Ophiuchus, the throne of God. And so this is now coronation themed. Birth themed for 2014, 2015. Coronation themed. The first year of the latter days, birth themed. The last year of the latter days, coronation themed. Just see how God has set this up. This is just remarkable. And so Jupiter is at the belly of Aquarius. Shall I go over Revelation or Doctrine and Covenants, section 85, verse 7? His bowels shall be a fountain of truth, Aquarius. The fountain of waters being poured over like a high priest, symbol in Egyptian, and Jupiter is in the bowels of Aquarius. Coronation, the anointing, the washing, in this particular case, with anointing. So the washing of Jupiter, the moon anointed. See how this is working out? This is awesome. So November 19th, 2021, there was too much to put where I wanted to put it, so I put it down below at the starred portion. Jupiter is now at the tail of Capricorn, the falling of the Christ. And Mars is at the top of Libra. That's where Nelson was when Monson died. Mars was back on top of Libra again, as Jupiter has fallen at the tail of the goat beast. But it's an eclipse, so it reverses it. Mercury is being weighed in the balances with the Sun in Libra. Mars, Nelson, judge at the top of this lunar eclipse, and thus is reversed, and Mercury and the Sun, which are government, coronation, are being weighed in the balance. And with the lunar eclipse, they've failed their judgment. And the moon on the crown of Taurus, the Apis ball, being eclipsed. So you can see, again, coronation still being involved here. Now, the solar eclipse we just had at the South Pole on 12/4/2021, Jupiter is back in Aquarius, and the moon, the eclipse occurs in Ophiuchus, the throne of God. The throne of God is eclipsed, where Jupiter is back at the bowels of fountain of truth. Something 10, Mercury, Mars, Libra. Oh, with. Okay. Having trouble deciphering my own script. Ophiuchus was in conjunction with Mercury and Mars in Libra, being weighed in the balances. And so, yeah, not a good judgment for Nelson. Then next year, these are what's coming. May 16th, 2022, Jupiter, Venus, Mars are now in Pisces. The moon is being weighed in Libra. So we've got birth with Jupiter, Venus, and Mars, and the moon is being weighed in Libra. Now Mars should no longer be Nelson, depending on today, or depending on if he dies any time before then. So the moon would change characters by then. Would the church be willing to give it up to the actual Christ, the real king, like they claim they're going to do? But are they going to do it? And so all these play a similar feature role. But again, we don't know. It's a prediction so far. And then the big one. November 8th, 2022, Election Day in America. The midterm election, where it's already predetermined that MAGA candidates will win and sweep the House and Senate of the United States of America. Supreme Court already overturned the arguments of the crimes being committed by MAGA in all the states to overturn future elections. Supreme Court says, oh yeah, they can do it. No problem there. So yeah, if a MAGA candidate loses, he won't lose. The state now can say, hey, we need to check this election. We are going to assign other people to designate the winner. MAGA wins. MAGA goes to Congress. They already have impeachment proceedings. They are already talking about making Trump the Speaker of the House. Why the Speaker of the House? He would be third in line for the presidency. Doesn't he want to be president again? Don't MAGA want him to be president again? Well, what? Oh, wait, that impeachment proceedings that are already written up by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, Trump will officiate over the impeachment of Biden and Harris for the supposed false accusation now that they won the election. You see what they're doing? We're already finding out the phone call information of Congress during January 6th. Congresspersons seeking to overthrow our government. They're not stopping. They're going to overthrow it because nobody's holding them accountable. And so when MAGA takes over Congress, Trump will be made the Speaker of the House. He will then officiate over the impeachment, and with the Senate full of MAGA, Biden and Harris are going to be the first ever president and vice president to be impeached and convicted and thrown out of office. The first ever in American history. And it's a false claim. It'll be a sham trial. But that's what they're claiming they're going to do. And Trump, as the Speaker of the House, gets put right back into the presidency in 2023. January. So all these people, even I saw Hillary Clinton saying, oh, Trump in 2024, that's a dangerous thing. There won't be an election in 2024. Trump will make sure of it. Do you not understand? 2023, Trump becomes president again. That's the end of America. Just in time for April 2024. But the wicked, the enemy, think it's for the New World Order. But so Sun, Mercury, and Venus are all, at the top of Libra. Do you see this as coronation for the election? Mercury is Trump. I'll just tell you that right now. I've been kind of wondering about Mercury's status under Biden, but as I have seen with the Perry Packer Scott, it wasn't Trump back then, and it was being used in a general concept for coronation, for government officiation. They are the governing body of the church. So the symbolism applies in that specific case. And so with the church, Mercury is playing a dual role here, as the election is going to be fraudulent. We already know it is. And Trump will be made Speaker of the House to become president. And so Mercury applies to government, but also church government, because there's a lunar eclipse involved with this as well, even though the Sun and Mercury are at the top of Libra, because Venus is also there. Anybody remember Captain Moroni? Yeah. So the question is, when will the church fall? If it's not with Nelson's death, because Oakes would then just take over, when would the fall occur? So this is what I have to reevaluate if the church does not fall today with Nelson. And if Nelson doesn't fall, then I've got to reevaluate for Nelson. And it's going to be tough. You know, I did do some checking, but this is going to be hard to beat if he doesn't die today. But Jupiter is now in Pisces, his birth constellation, 17th of March, 1970. The moon, Aries. The death constellation and the moon, blood red, in Aries. So, if anything, that very much looks like the death of the church, if it doesn't happen today, on election day. So that'll be very curious how that would happen. But the enemy comes in and destroys Utah. That's the prophecy of Joseph Smith in section 101, verse 43. Starting in verse 43. 51 is the passage. And so, what will happen? That's only a prediction right now, but it's a damn good one for the fall of the church on election day. And when you have people that are wanting to vote for non-MAGA candidates in Utah, and you get MAGA candidates upset demanding that people vote for MAGA, you're going to get violence. You're going to get death. You're going to have the enemy going nuts to make sure that their candidate wins. So hang on. It's going to be wild. But again, remember Moroni, Captain Moroni, title of liberty, goes in to get rid of the king men. MAGA want a king. They want a king on the throne of America. They want to do away with the Constitution, do away with our rights and privileges and freedoms, and make it the white master race with a king on the throne. That's what they've wanted from the beginning of our nation. They came in, infiltrated America to overthrow it and return to a monarchy. Now they're implementing what they plotted way back then. And the Smiths were a part of this and warned us with the Book of Mormon. So, alrighty. Now, the remaining clip will be whatever happens today. So, yeah, it'll be a separate clip, and then it'll be included in this big, massive video.